Over the past few weeks, I've attempted to engage people on YouTube with the idea of a great board game called Pandemopoly. And in it, I've characterized the game itself as not of a little 4 to 6 players in a monopoly game on real estate, but as 7.3 billion players all across the earth. And as you can see in my game, all of the earth is involved, all the world is involved, all the planets, all of the continents are involved. And through that process, I've attempted to engage us in a discussion and a narrative about what is actually going on, as opposed to all of the pitting of us against each other, the little games we play in each of the continents, the North American stuff with the Republicans and Democrats playing off each other, acting as though one is the good guy and the other one isn't, and on and on and on. And the mainstream media characterizing one side is bad, then the other side is bad, and of course most of you will agree, lately at least, it's all been on one side. But that's neither here nor there. In the game of Monopoly, there are these little players, these little pieces that go around the board that represent the people that are playing. The race car, the battleship, the thimble, the Scotty dog, and of course the top hat that I have used in some other characterizations about the game itself. But that's not adequate for the game of Pandemopoly, because those are too simple and too innocent to be playing the real board game of 7.3 billion people. So I have borrowed some ideas from George Orwell's Animal Farm and some of the ideas of my own. And what I came up with in the barnyard, the great 7.3 billion of us in the barnyard of Earth, are the following. The little free-range chicken, the sheep, the cow, the pig, and the goat. And I'll characterize those in a moment. And then there are the players that are not on the board, players that are too big to be on the board and that do not have to run around like chickens and farm animals like the rest of us in order to scratch out and eke out a living. And they are the snakes, that is, the presidents, the prime ministers, the dictators, the parties that play, the cabinet ministers, the big players that are representative of the mega corporations, and they are manipulating, oftentimes in present, oftentimes behind the scenes, to make things really happen the way that they're supposed to happen according to Pandemopoly, which is the game of chaos towards a totalitarian end. So who is the final set of players? Well, it's the dragon, folks. The big dragon, the one that's on the pit, the one that's sitting on all the gold. And of course we can characterize it as a single Smaug-like Lord of the Rings dragon, or we can characterize it as a group of dragons all tending toward one end. But the object is that the dragons will rule, and the dragons will rule over everybody else. In my little game, of Pandemopoly, there is the chicken, of course, and we've often heard, those of us on YouTube and elsewhere, on Gaia, that these are the free-range chickens, and many of us consider ourselves or think of ourselves like free-range chickens. We think nothing's wrong because obviously we have the run of the place. We get to scratch around, we get to eat, there's food, there's stuff on the ground, we can fly anywhere we want to, it's safe, it's secure, at night we've got a nice warm place to live. And the minor thing that we have of handing out a few eggs and or a chicken disappearing once in a while because its head got chopped off and we didn't know it, those are just minor things. They're little bit players. And the free-range chickens are, as a rooster might be, fluffed up, pluffed up, self-important. We might be watching NASCAR or NFL. We might be watching all the beauty queens, going to the ramps, the big ramps for all of the Hollywood players and the rest of that. We are thoroughly absorbed in the petite, nothing that matters. Don't tell us about what matters. I'm going to get my nails done this weekend. I'm going to go hunting. I'm looking for white-tailed deer. I'm looking for a new car. Gosh, we're going to exchange our old house for a new one. All of these really important things that have to do with scratching around in the chicken yard and not recognizing that there are many other things going on in the yard about which we have no understanding. The second one are the sheep, and oftentimes these are characterized as the sheeple. These are the dumb, duped-out, dutiful citizens, the ones that go where they're supposed to go, do what they're supposed to do, dutifully pay their dues, go to work every morning, watch TV at night, feed their kids, and see that things get done. But if they're told something is going on, if the mainstream media says, well, gee, this is going on, then they believe it. And they believe that it's all true. And it doesn't matter whether they believe it on one side of the political spectrum or on the work spectrum. It doesn't matter whether they're blue collar or white collar, whether they make $24,000 a year or $240,000 a year or $240 million a year. If they dutifully do what they're supposed to do and they follow their own little track, if they stay in the flock, and every time things get dangerous, they all cluster together because it's the only defense they have. So when 9/11 comes, the free-range chickens hardly notice. But the sheep all cluster together and terrified. They don't they don't go on major airlines for weeks or months after that because they might end up on a hijacked airplane, and wouldn't that be horrible? Even though hundreds of millions of miles are traveled each year, and there are only 4 goofy airplanes that are supposedly hijacked. But the sheeple are terrified. The sheeple cause the whole market to drift off, and because they are afraid, and because they are made to be afraid by the mainstream media, it's perfect, right? The third group, and I don't know how necessary they are the cows. They are, again, a group that follows and dutifully does what it's supposed to do. It produces every day. It's in and out of the yard. It's always doing what it's supposed to do. It hardly ever objects. It also serves as a provider of sustenance and a provider of food at times, which sometime we can talk about. But the cows, again, all you have to do, and I characterize these as 2 herds. They're the progressive, liberal, democratic herd, and there's the conservative, traditional, Republican herd, and both of them have a lead cow. And they put a bell on Bessie or Bossy or whoever it is, and everybody in the cow world comes and goes behind the belled cow every morning, every night. They all do what they're supposed to. They can be made to stampede. Sure they can. If something spooks them, away they go. But they don't ever think for themselves, as neither do the sheep or the chickens. It's just, how do we play? What are we told to do? The fourth group are the pigs, and of course in Animal Farm, in Orwell's Animal Farm, these are the privileged ones. These are the ones that connive to gain advantage, that play cowardly, shrewd little games to work advantage, and are, they think, the masters of the whole process. But of course, they are being manipulated and played by the snakes and the dragon. These are the petty little folks that are the business people in your community. They are the mayors, they are the county commissioners, they are the governors, they are the folks that go to the legislature. They are the folks that are serving as the Chamber of Commerce and the Junior Chamber of Commerce. They are the civic leaders. They're in your churches and the rest of that. And you know, they want everybody to be equal as long as they're more equal. And on Animal Farm, the players, the pigs, there were 4 major ones. The ideologues, the shrewd masters, the ones with the privileged life, and the snaky, short, little, fat squealer who prioritizes his comfort over all else. And of course, these were made originally to fit into the communist world where all of this went on. and Orwell's characterization of it. But it applies equally, and what most people forget is that it applies equally to any totalitarian situation, where there are people who consider themselves special, who think that they should be able to tell you what you should do. They should be able to tell you everyone else's business. They should centralize control, as we're doing now with our federal government, not much differently than the Soviet Union or Russia has done, or the European Union. We have a centralized state which is managing our affairs for us, and through it all we have bankers that are running it all and that are managing the centralized governmental estate, the financial affairs, the economic results that we're having, and all of it is being managed outside. And finally, there's the goat. And in Animal Farm, the goat is one of the few that becomes literate. And for literate, I mean, as often is the case on YouTube, and as I feel and hope and appreciate are the people who are most likely to listen to this, are the people that are awake, the people that stand off, the people that don't follow the sheep, that separate themselves out, that think for themselves, and that are working to figure out what's going on throughout, not just on the little farm, not just in the barnyard, but throughout the world, are trying to put the pieces together to look at the big picture. Who's really running the farm? Who's really running the 7.3 billion of us that are on the page? And to take cognizance of the snakes, to take cognizance of those big players that are going to Bilderberg and elsewhere, and that are planning our lives for us, that are telling the little pigs how to do it, and telling the rest of the mainstream media to follow through and make sure that everything goes according to the script. And the script will last 10 years, 5 years, 100 years, it doesn't matter. Are they gaining? Is the process moving? Are they going forward? And what we don't picture is that these farm animals are all, if they are taken fully under control, if everybody herds them all together, then the dragons will run the farm. The dragons will be the only ones that run the farm. The great global network will all be managed from one place. And with artificial intelligence and the grand computerization of everything, all of the farm animals can have a number. All the farm animals can have places where they're allowed to go and not allowed to go. And if it is digitized, they can be made to either eat and have a place to go or not. And so we are days, weeks, months, years from having this grand convergence, all of this secret stuff that's been going on in the background for hundreds of years, which has been more noticeable for 70 years and has been more and more obvious to us over the last 30 years or so through the last 4 presidencies and beyond. Take a look at it. There is a grand convergence, folks, and Pandemopoly is not just my crazy little idea. It probably is not a term anybody else has used or has used for it, but all of the players are playing according to this game. And until we make cognizance of the fact that the game is being played this way, and the game is very serious, and we're not part of the game, we are just simply farm animals. Until we realize that, Pandemopoly will keep moving toward totalitarian control from the left or from the right, from the fascists, for the communists. It doesn't matter. All that matters is all of us be brought under control, all of us be told exactly what to think, all of us march in lockstep, and all of us are responsive to the secret hidden hands that are behind the folks that are telling us what to do. So this is the game of Pandemopoly. These are the little games that they play: assassination, graft and vice, arms race, bank crashes, wars, mainstream media, false flags, mega corporations, pharma, and the rest. And all of these things are being used to gain control over us, from chemtrails all the way to bank financing and manipulation, to the wars that we are being told we must engage, to the parties that are this month, as was the case in 1984, this month are our enemies, and next month may be our allies. It's all part of the same game, folks. And as we break it down and as we take a look at these individual pieces, all of it will begin to converge, and you'll see, and as many of you already know, we'll see all these pieces fit together and realize it's all part of one giant game, and the game is very serious and we're not part of it. So what I ask you to say to yourself is, which one are you? Are you the free-range chicken that is totally oblivious? Hey, watch the Super Bowl, everything's great, right? Get your nails done. Are we having chicken wings, right? Are we having a barbecue? The sheep, are we going to be dutifully following through? The cow, do we follow the bell? The cow with the bell, the pig. Are we looking out for ourselves and nobody else, and are we telling everybody else what to do and managing our little petite dictatorships all over the country and all over the world, whether it's corporate or business or governmental? We like to be the big players, and we want to hog up a little bigger chunk of what's equal for everybody else. Or are we the goats? Sounds like a funny term for what I consider to be the best bit player. Are we the ones that are thinking, are becoming aware, are seeing the big picture, and are starting to put the pieces together, and perhaps putting the horns to it, separating ourselves from the sheep and the goats, and making sure that we move forward to reverse the process with the snakes and the dragons and the rest of that. Now finally, I'm going to say this. We need to unite the 10 million. And uniting the 10 million means the 3% of us who are active in this United States, much as the Continental soldiers were 250 or 300 years ago, the ones who were active and said we must make a difference, we will step forward. We will walk in the snow with rags on our feet. We will make sure that eventually we can speak for ourselves, by ourselves, we can act, we can assemble, we can have news that is real, we can protect ourselves. The Bill of Rights are part of the process. So are we going to maintain this, or are we going to let it all go? And are we going to ferret out the snakes, chop their heads off, and go to the cave, find the dragons and slay them all, every one of them. Not necessarily killing them, neutralizing them. Taking the gold back, neutralizing the Federal Reserve and all the rest of the banks that are used to manipulate us, and the financial institutions and the corporations that are all part of this giant play, as well as the three-letter organizations, the CIA, the NSA, etc. And finally, let me say this. I heard a delightful piece of news today. Someone attempted to post one of my videos on Facebook, and it was banned and removed because it was hate speech. Well, if hate speech is looking after the 7.3 billion as opposed to the 30 or the 300 or the 3,000 that are attempting to run against this, then, that's great. And you know what else it means? It means that my little message, such as it is starting to take hold, and it's over the target, and somebody else is watching. And so, folks, let's do it. Let's move forward. Let's be part of the 10 million. Let us unite, and let's see that all of the rest of this, that we can go about the farm yard free and proud and members of this great globe without being managed by the few. Thank you.